Hi, this is Kara Mayer Robinson. Welcome to Really Famous, where I talk to famous people and cut through the fluff to get to what they really think and how they really feel. This week, I have a very special episode for you. This is the Tim Gunn bonus special. If you listened to my very first podcast, my guest was the talented fashion guru and Project Runway mentor, Tim Gunn. You may remember me saying Tim and I hung out together for about 3 hours, but I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with like the longest podcast episode ever, so I trimmed it down. What I'm giving you today is some of the cuts that didn't make it into that very first episode. We cover a few random topics from here and there. If you didn't listen to my original episode with Tim, I definitely encourage you to go back to episode number 1. The Tim Gunn interview. He's one of a kind and it's a fan favorite. But you don't need to have listened to that to listen to this. Here, once again, is my guest, Tim Gunn. Oh, it's the Oprah mug again.
Yes.
I think you gave it to me last time.
I did.
Yes.
It's your mug.
All right. Oprah, by the way, is going to be on 60 Minutes.
I read that. Yeah, great.
I think that's good.
I do too.
Because 60 Minutes has been getting a little, not that it's getting stale, but I don't know, I think it needs a little...
It needs something. Agreed.
Adrenaline.
I wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post about my woefulness about how women who are larger than a size 12 in this nation are marginalized, and not just by designers, but more importantly by retailers, and how this needs to change. And that has led to a new book project.
What's the book?
Well, it can't be solely about that. It's going to be about how we each need to wrap our brain around who we are and be the best at what that can be. And in some ways it's sort of a self-motivation book, but Tim Gunn style, so it's not going to be all this preachy craziness. But about navigating the world with confidence and improving our self-esteem, especially these days. We all need it.
But so is this what your day is like?
Well, I will say this. Since leaving Liz Claiborne, which was 3 years ago, no day is routine. They're just, well, that's not true. When we're taping Runway, it's very routine. Because we start at a certain time, we end at a certain time, and it's every day.
Every day. It's every day? Like you don't get a weekend day off or something? For how many months straight or weeks? Day.
Well, when we're doing Runway and then Project Runway Junior back to back.
That's exhausting, I would think.
Well, I'll tell you, actually, if we did 2 regular seasons of Runway, I probably would be in a hospital bed. But so we do a season of Runway, which takes us 6 weeks roughly. Then no break, instantly into Junior, and then we have to. And I'll get back to the exhaustion part, but instantly into Junior. But then we have to figure into the Junior schedule my home visits for regular Runway, because that takes 10 days. We did in this past season because we worked it out, and we had somebody in New York, and someone in Boston, so the travel wasn't that far spread, but it's really challenging. And then as soon as Junior's the regular part of the season wraps, we have Fashion Week, and then we have Juniors preparing for their show, which we had in Los Angeles this year, and then we did the regular Runway reunion there. So it was 5 months back to back to back. But the wonderful thing about having Junior is that God bless the child labor laws, because we can't have them on camera any more than 8 hours.
So it's a shrunken day, every day.
So we're leaving the set when it's still light out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So it's really like a sprint and a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after you get back from that, are you is it time to replenish at that point?
Well, it is, but that's not what happens.
So what are you doing for those weeks?
I am making appearances. I am doing other television things. I am, I'm all, and I'm flying all over the place. Where was I going with this?
So you and the judges do not get along. Or you do not, I'm not going to say that, but you don't.
No, I think your statement is absolutely accurate. I
Okay.
think they have as much antipathy towards me as I do towards them. Because I call them out on stuff all the time. Michael Kors left us after season 10. So 10 years is enough of a commitment. I need to move on. Thank you for your service. We're going to miss you terribly, and I mean that sincerely. We miss him terribly. Zach Posen comes in. And also, I will add, things have been and continue to be very tense between Zach and me. And it began with Zach telling all 16 designers episode 11, or season 11, episode 1, they're all on the runway. He said, I just want you to know something. I believe that everything I've ever heard from a teacher, and then he looks over at me, and I'm way back over there, or a mentor, has never been good advice.
I know you told me last time we talked that you weren't a big fan of Isaac Mizrahi.
Oh, I'll take Zach over Isaac any day.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Isaac is Trumpian. He is so filled with ego that he's the Messiah. And we should all be so lucky and privileged as to be in his great presence. He is so horribly, and I had to work with him, well, I won't say closely because he wouldn't permit it, but I had to work with him at Liz Claiborne, and frankly, I had to work around him. Did I tell you about that?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, including when he said he wouldn't do any trunk shows, and we had 16 set up, fashion shows and a trunk show following. And I said, well, I will, and because the CEO was furious about the situation because it was part of the contract with Isaac, but nobody wanted to ruffle his feathers. Everyone's petting him and like, oh, it's fine, don't do it. And I said, Bill, we have these commitments. I'll go on the road. And he said, you do that? I said, in a heartbeat. And then Isaac forbade me to go.
He said that?
Yeah. Forbade me.
What did you do?
We didn't do it because no one wanted to ruffle his feathers. In fact, his second hand, who came with him from Target, I was in a meeting. Zach, Freudian slip. Isaac would never attend meetings. He's too grand. But I was in a meeting with her, and she had gone to an event because I did events for the company all the time, but fashion events with other brands. And she said, I'll never forget this. It was one of the other times that I actually blew. She said, well, I was at the event at such and such on Saturday, and she said, quite frankly, your shtick just won't work for Isaac. I said, I got up on my haunches, my shtick? What about my shtick? And I don't even remember what happened. All that I know is the next thing I know was in my office slamming the door.
So you had an outburst.
I mean, can you imagine someone use shtick? And I loved those fashion events, and they were only intended to help people, and they did. And we used plus-size models. Well, that wasn't going to work for him.
Oh, so is he one of the sort of anti?
Well, since he worked or designed for Target, that can't be.
Oh, okay.
But do I think he liked it? I wouldn't even say.
And how about Nina? Do you get along with?
Well, no disrespect. It's not my thing. I don't like hearing about her Hamptons weekend and about how we went to such and such, but they couldn't give us the table that we usually have. And I mean, I just thought, do we just go home? I mean, it's that kind of thing.
Well, who do you hang out with? Because you hang out with other people all the time.
The person I hang out with the most is my dear friend Ken in Washington, D.C. We text a couple of times a week about something funny, and he works for the Human Rights Campaign, so you can only imagine the state he's in. And he's responsible for my taking the first vacation I've had since 2001. Last summer, he and I went to Greece.
Did you love it?
I loved it. It was wonderful.
How did he get you to go?
We were having dinner in Washington, and he said, I'm putting this on the table now. You haven't had a vacation since 2001, and let's plan something, you and I, because I'm going to make you go. And I said, oh, that's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. He said, no, let's plan it now. And we did.
And it was relaxing?
It was relaxing. I had a blast.
Replenishing?
It was replenishing, yeah.
You had a blast. Where'd you go?
We went to Santorini, which is geographically spectacular. And we took a day trip to Crete. And went to the Palace of Knossos, which was phenomenal.
So will you take another vacation this summer?
Not this summer. I'm redoing my bathroom.
What does one have to do with the other?
Budget.
Finances. That could be the only thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing your bathroom instead of a vacation, but the following summer you'll go to.
I think every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
I will say that trip was so replenishing in its own way. I feel as though it just happened.
One thing nobody would believe is
that I cherish being alone.
And the last question is, in 5 years, I'd like to be
fencing competitively.
Excellent. Tim, thank you so much.
I feel like we've known each other forever.
Don't you?
Yeah.
I could hang out with you all day,
That's
every
how
day.
I feel.
Thanks for listening to Really Famous. I hope you'll subscribe to the podcast. Whatever app you're using, click the subscribe button, and that way you'll get every new episode. If you like this podcast, it would be great if you rate and review it on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you're listening. Definitely follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kara121. And check out reallyfamouspodcast.com. There's lots of bonus features, links, photos, you name it. Thanks again for listening. I'm Kara Mayer Robinson, and this is Really Famous.